So this is my homemade Glaive Prime X Gauss build. This build primarily focuses on running around the map while never dying and blowing everything up. It's really nice if you're anything like me and you hate running out of ammo, hate running out of resources, dying, moving slowly. This build is perfect for you. So, for this, my primary and basically only weapon is Glaive Prime. You can use Zorus for it, and unless you're in Steel Path, it's not that big of a difference. And Zorus does actually have some benefits over Glaive Prime. I'll make another video after this, talking about the difference between Glaive Prime and Zorus, because I used Zorus for a good 70 hours before I used Glaive Prime, and it's really not just that cut in stone which one's better, and I couldn't find any information on which one was better. So I'll make a video myself now that I'm experienced enough. So I've been using this build, at least a similar one, since I started the game. I don't even have 200 hours of playtime, and it's so good. Gauss Prime is the Warframe. There's a lot of frames that can go with this Glaive Prime build, though I find Gauss Prime is the best. It's down to many reasons. First off, Gauss Prime is a very nice passive of just being super tanky with his shields. He's super fast. He has multiple, abilities that just can stay on for the entire match and boost him. With his durability build, they all last for well over a minute, and you can just use them infinitely. And look at the boosts on Redline here. So first off, it doubles melee damage, which it doesn't show on here, but it does. It increases casting speed, reload speed, fire rates, but none of those are really important. But it increases attack speed by 133%, which includes the charge time of throwing the glaive. On top of that, it shoots out little bursts of energy, which aren't that powerful, but they still deal extra damage and can, stagger enemies so they don't shoot you. He also uses kinetic plating, which basically just gives you immortality and more energy sustain, which is really nice. And then Mach Rush, it's, super, nice. You can just dash around the map absurdly fast. You can dash through enemies, knocking them over and dealing some extra damage. And then I have Firewalker subsumed over the Thermal Sunder. There's a lot of things you can do here, but I highly recommend getting rid of Thermal Sunder on this build, because as you can see, I have extremely low range and only base strength, so it's relatively useless unless you only want, the status effects on, one enemy. I have Firewalker subsumed because it's super nice with the combination. It is the exact same duration as my other two keep-on buffs. It gives me an extra speed bonus. It deals extra damage around. It gives me and my allies status immunity. It's super cheap to cast. And the fire that you leave around, since you move so fast, you can just coat an entire area with your flames, and it will stun lock everything while dealing extra damage. So it basically prevents anything from getting to your objective, which is super nice, at least for me. Some people might find that annoying not having them all crowd together, but I personally like it. If you want extra damage, which even in Steel Path, I have never run into enemy I don't kill in 1 to 2 hits, you can subsume Roar onto this instead for that extra damage, though I find that Roar is a little annoying because it freezes you in place when you're charging it up, and I've ran into some random bugs where the duration randomly cuts out and I can't figure out why. So as for the mods on Gauss Prime, I have Steel Charges the Aura, which just gives me a huge melee bonus. Corrosive Projection is pretty good as well, lowering enemies' armor. But with Glaive's passive armor negation with its passive slash damage, I don't find it's that useful, especially since I run a primer. I prefer just the flat damage because it's just universally good, even on enemies who aren't very armored. I have Rush in my auxiliary slot for bonus sprint speed, Prime Continuity for duration, Augur Accord for some shield capacity and increasing energy spent. I don't really ever die with this build, so you could easily swap this out. I just keep it as a little safety net, though I feel like probably something more health or armor related would be better as a safety net in case you run into Toxin. Primed Flow for more energy, Equilibrium for more energy and health, Armored Agility for sprint speed and armor, Adaptation for more defense, Augur Message for duration and more shields because I spam Mach Rush a ton, Narrow-Minded for a ton of extra ability duration. It gives you negative range, but none of my abilities benefit on range. For the Arcanes, I run Molt Efficiency, which is basically just a permanent 36% ability duration increase, and then Arcane Energize for even more energy for me and my allies. I find that I never really struggle with energy at all once I get going. At the beginning it's a little annoying, because I also run Zeneric, so I can use that first ability to regenerate ammo at the beginning. But you could easily swap out the shield ability and the some of the energy abilities for other stuff, though I can't really find anything I'd rather have. So I just kind of go all out. You could replace, for example, Augur Accord for sprint boost and other speed mods if you want to go even faster. But other than that, I'm not sure what else to put in these places. If you guys have ideas, since I'm still pretty new to the game, let me know in the comments. For my main weapon, Glaive Prime, I have no innate status effect or elemental damage mods on this, which you could benefit from them, maybe a Toxin to bypass shields, but I find them kind of pointless because I use Arcane Exposure as my arcane on here, which is literally just a permanent 240% increase to damage on my weapon, and this applies after everything. And since I have no other status effects on here aside from the innate ones and the forced slash procs, the corrosive damage isn't diluted at all, and it's really nice just being able to negate even more armor and just have that huge damage increase. For my stance, I have Astral Twilight. It doesn't matter that much because the other one, Gleaming Talon, I believe it's called, there's really no difference in the damage or anything, and they don't change how you throw it, and really all you do is throw. Though I would say Gleaming Talon is probably a little bit better, because it's melee attacks while running don't slow you down at all, when with this, Astral Twilight, it puts you in a full stop. But I just think Astral Twilight looks way cooler. Whirlwind in my Exulius slots to increase the speed of the thrown weapon a ton. Sacrificial Pressure for a big damage increase, and Sentience damage boost. Volatile Quick Returns, so the Glaive no longer bounces on enemies, and once it hits the ground, it'll explode for a big amount of damage and then just immediately return to me. Corrupt Charge gives me 30 combo, always, which, since we exclusively use heavy attacks, that's just a flat damage boost right there, and it pairs perfectly with Gladiator Might, which increases my critical damage, and I get 10% melee critical chance per combo multiplier. Killing Blow to make me throw weapons significantly faster, and they deal way more damage, for a much higher critical chance and damage to sentience. And since it's in the same set as Sacrificial Pressure, it increases the damage boost and sentient damage, and vice versa. Dispatch Overdrive to make it so whenever I hit people on my heavy attack, I get a 60% movement speed. Note that this will only trigger with the mid-air explosive you have with Glaives by pressing alternate fire when it's mid-air. That's the only way to trigger this. So it can be hard to trigger on lower level enemies because you'll just one-shot them with the explosion from Volatile Quick Return. But once you get to higher level enemies, there's no problem keeping this up. Amalgam Organ Shatter for even more critical damage and heavy attack wind speed. As long as I'm doing heavy attacks, I never don't get a critical hit, and I even occasionally see like 4 million damage red critical hits, though those are pretty rare. Now, I'm only MR12, so I can't actually show any enemies above level 115. I'll bring out some corrupted heavy Xmas guys. So you want to press 4, 3, and T when you start getting your buffs on in that specific order. 4 because it has the longest startup time, so if you do it last, it'll like expire a couple seconds before the others. 3 because it's just faster and you can also start popping it on as 4 is charging. And 2 last. And you can see that they all have basically the same duration. And then afterwards you just do like 2 mock rushes to get up to your red line's battery charge, and then you're good to go. As you can see, I leave fire on and they last for a really long time. And it does so much damage like without a primer. Like just a couple hits eradicated that entire group. And now that they're gone, you can see just how fast I move. It's so nice. And just literally no energy problems. And while all my stuff are on, for some reason, Mock Rush costs 0 on a press cast. I have literally 0 clue why that is, so if somebody can explain why, please let me know. Because I made all these energy like things with the assumption that when it costs 0, but it just does, which is kind of crazy. And then when you're fighting a harder enemy, you can pop in a couple rounds of your epitaph to soften them up, and you'll just be able to kill them right away. So like, for example, you see, like, just look how much damage that slash does. Like, just a 1 hit. It's kind of crazy. So as you can see, even when their AI isn't off, I'm still able to survive pretty consistently. And it's really not much of a problem, like I'm hardly even dodging or I'm not blocking anything. And one of the nice things about having a sidearm in your other hand, instead of fully wielding this, is your character will just passively block shots that are aiming at them.